This is GBC News. The headlines. Spanish Premier Pedro Sánchez makes his first visit to the frontier on treaty implementation day. The Chief Minister says the frontier fence coming down means more to him personally than the removal of the gate. Opposition leader Keith Asobardi says the time has come to build trust and confidence. The La Línea mayor welcomes Mr. Sanchez's address at the frontier, describing it as a speech about people rather than politics. And some initial issues with customs procedures and the EES system at the airport reported earlier on. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. The Spanish Premier has made his first visit to the frontier. The landmark visit coincided with the provisional implementation of the treaty as Pedro Sánchez joined the Chief Minister, his deputy, Joseph Garcia, and the 8 mayors of the Campo de Gibraltar for the symbolic removal of the frontier gate, a moment the Spanish Premier described as the start of a new era for the region.
The high-profile visit was held under tight security, with access to the frontier area restricted, while police officers carried out security checks ahead of the Spanish Premier's arrival. Pedestrian and vehicle movements were affected as his convoy entered the area before normal crossing resumed. In Gibraltar, the visit also caused tailbacks on our roads, with long delays to enter Spain. Pedro Sánchez was accompanied by the Spanish Foreign Minister José Manuel Álvarez. They were welcomed by the Chief Minister Fabián Picardo and Deputy Chief Minister Joseph Garcia, before meeting representatives from the Campo de Gibraltar, including the region's 8 mayors and the La Línea mayor Juan Franco. The central moment of the ceremony came shortly after midday, when 2 cranes removed the gates at the frontier in a symbolic gesture, marking the start of a new chapter in relations between Gibraltar and the Campo de Gibraltar. The event also brought together business representatives, trade unions and cross-border workers, many of whom have been directly affected by the arrangements governing movement between Gibraltar and Spain for decades.
In his address, the Spanish Premier said the treaty is a just agreement which protects Spain's interests. Speaking during his visit to the frontier, Pedro Sánchez said his government had sought solutions with courage and dignity to resolve an inherited conflict.
Alguien dijo una vez que las fronteras son las cicatrices de la historia, y probablemente tenga razón, porque una cicatriz habla de una herida que existió, pero que terminó por cerrar. Un muro, en cambio, es la decisión consciente de mantener esa herida abierta. Y creo que esto es importante también recordarlo, porque durante décadas la verja ha sido exactamente eso, una herida abierta para los miles de trabajadores que cruzaban cada día sin saber cuánto tardarían en llegar a su puesto de trabajo, por supuesto también para las familias separadas por unos metros de metal y para generaciones y generaciones que crecieron pensando que no había una solución posible. Precisamente el alcalde de La Línea me recordaba la historia de su abuela con mucha emoción. Yo creo que, claro que por supuesto había solución, solo era necesario querer encontrarla y también tener esa vocación y esa voluntad política de materializarla. Y eso es lo que hemos hecho. Lo hemos hecho superando por fin una forma de entender la política que confunde la prudencia con la inacción, que hipoteca el futuro mirando siempre al pasado y que piensa que los conflictos enquistados están destinados a eso, a permanecer abiertos. Bueno, nosotros nunca hemos creído eso. Creemos que la política alcanza su mayor dignidad cuando deja de administrar los problemas heredados y encuentra el coraje suficiente para resolverlos. Y eso es lo que hemos hecho. Gobernar con determinación, exigir con perseverancia que las negociaciones, aun siendo difíciles, avancen hasta encontrar el acuerdo y exigir dialogar sin renunciar, por supuesto, a los principios que cada uno legítimamente tiene. Como los que, por cierto, definen la posición de España en la cuestión de Gibraltar, siempre alineada con el interés nacional y, por supuesto, con el pleno respeto al derecho internacional. Creo, amigos y amigas, que el acuerdo entre la Comisión Europea y el Reino Unido, firmado ayer en Bruselas, querido embajador, con también la participación decisiva ministro del Reino de España, y que hoy entra en vigor, es un acuerdo justo que protege nuestros intereses.
Speaking after Mr. Sanchez's address, the Chief Minister told GBC that the frontier fence coming down had been even more significant to him personally than the removal of the gate. He was speaking live at the border earlier today to our news editor Christine Vasquez, who first asked him about issues people were having with the EES e-gate system at the airport. Fabian Picardo said he was sure things would be evened out over the coming days.
Well, look, there may have been some teething troubles at the entrance to Gibraltar Airport. The EES, of course, is the responsibility of the Schengen authorities, the Kingdom of Spain. I know that they were installing late last night and finishing off that process. There have been teething problems with EES around Europe. I'm not surprised that there may be some here. The volume of people here is less, so obviously, even if there are problems, it should not lead to lengthy waiting times compared to the 4 or 5 hours that there are in other airports. And of course, that's not affecting Gibraltar residents or European citizens and European residents because they don't do EES. So those who are arriving here and have to do EES would have the problems here, Malaga or anywhere else.
Chief Minister, another symbolic moment today. Yesterday we saw the fence, today we've had the gates.
Well, the gates are going, and you know I've really felt that more than perhaps even with the fence. Because, look, let's be very clear, Christine. We have to remember history. The fence was ours. We could have removed the fence at any time. Indeed, I'll let you into a little secret. During the negotiations, when things were a little bit tough, and people might say, well, we might not have a deal, I would say, well, okay, no problem. We'll remove the fence anyway. And then what? We would have had the run of Schengen. Of course, in jest. But these gates were ours and theirs. But we never closed ours. The gates that were closed were Franco's gates. Today, Franco's gates are being removed. And I've gently suggested to the Spanish authorities that they might want to take those gates and lay them over Franco's grave, so that neither he nor anyone like him could ever give up to cause us these problems again, and to, given that he liked them so much, put them as close to him as possible.
Chief Minister, we've had no gates today, and yet the Spanish Premier, Pedro Sanchez, has not come into Gibraltar.
I know, I think it's a pity he hasn't come into Gibraltar, but the protocolic nature of the event meant that for health and safety reasons he had to stay on a particular side of the gate as it was moved. I had strict instructions as well as to where I had to stand because of the wind and whether the gate might move or not. I'm sure that all of those taboos, if they're not gone already, will start to go, and that you'll see senior members of the Spanish government coming to Gibraltar very soon indeed. All that talk, all that writing, all that paper removes concrete, chain link and barbed wire. That's what politics has to be about. Politics has to be about getting obstacles out of the way of people whilst keeping them safe. And today, the fortress does not have gates. It's a digital fortress, and it'll be safer than ever before.
And while these historic scenes were unfolding at the frontier, a couple of 100 metres away, implementation day was not going quite as smoothly down at the airport. Passengers flying into Gibraltar experienced long delays upon landing due to what appears to have been a failure with the new European entry-exit system machines. GBC heard from some of those who experienced the first day of the new airport arrangements, with frustration mounting as the hours went on.
Yeah, very, very, very easy.
A bit of a longer walk, I'm told.
Slightly, nothing in it. It's easy. It's good.
So no horror stories so far?
None whatsoever.
It was okay. Obviously, there's a few teething problems upstairs, so but I think it'll be straightforward once they've ironed those out. So yeah.
We've heard that the e-gates were not in use, so has it been a manual process for you?
Manual process, yeah. But being a Gibraltar resident, it was a bit easier.
So we came through passport control, and then as we've come through to the Spanish, were helping us with the fingerprints, checking passports again, doing the photograph of your face, and then just came through, got our cases and straight through. Really simple, really easy.
We were at the front.
Oh, okay.
So very quick, but I suspect the friends who were with at the back of the plane will probably be waiting quite a while.
Oh, it's gone very well apart from the scanning, so that's the only thing that hasn't happened. It seems most unusual to see both borders there together, but very exciting at the same time, and I think it'll simplify the whole operation once it gets going.
I'm working today,
Okay.
and apparently I'm the last one to be let through. There's some sort of reorganisation happening at the moment, so it's all a bit up in there.
It's just manual checking. None of the e-gates seem to be working at the moment.
Okay. How's the experience been for you? Has it been a bit laborious?
Unfortunately, I was one of the first off, so ask them in about half an hour and you'll get a different answer.
They're not letting anybody through where there's over 200-300 people sat waiting to come through. Two airplanes full of people are waiting to come through, and they're not letting them go to the toilets. There's children on there, there's old people there. They're basically just stuck in a room, and they're not letting them out at anything for any reason at all, and it's just ridiculous.
All the machines weren't working to let us through, so they would just take it. And then I don't know what happened where the two people were behind the desk doing it, but that all stopped for a while, didn't it? But then when it started again, people were starting to filter through.
There, but now with the police, the new control and the police, the machine don't work. We have about an hour waiting, hour and a half, waiting in the queue. People need a toilet, people need water, nothing.
Landed, everything was going well, and then, it just seemed to have stopped entirely in its tracks, so it's a good, I think I was standing there an hour before there was any movement, tiring stuff.
Some teething issues down at customs as well. We had reports that these started yesterday and rolled over into today. GBC understands the Asikuda system was down for parts of yesterday, with users struggling to get to grips with the new way of doing things.
This morning, it appeared like there could be major issues at the commercial gate as the first day of implementation and post-treaty changes hit. There was anger from customs agents who reportedly initially claimed had not been properly informed and then went back to gem up on the new instructions. Commemorations at the frontier and the visit by Pedro Sanchez didn't do delays and initial confusion any favours. For its part, Customs says there's been some unfortunate minor delays today, resulting from processing and accounting for incoming commercial goods movements under two different procedural streams. Movements caught under pre-treaty and transitional measures where prior rates and previous customs rules apply, as well as other commercial movements working under the new treaty measures via EU customs clearance and transaction tax collection. It says it's been well prepared since legislation and supporting documentation had been published under new treaty arrangements. Customs adds there's been a lot of work which continues in the background to ensure implementation occurs in as smooth a manner as possible, considering the size and nature of the task at hand. New correspondent treaty measures relating to custom movements have been introduced today, with Customs saying communication and clearance with their EU counterparts is working as expected. As goods movements shift towards higher percentages, all falling under the new commercial arrangements, Customs would expect to see improvements as the new process and procedures develop and become more familiar. It says delays today have been consistent with expectations arising from implementation of any procedural change of this magnitude.
The opposition leader says the frontier opening brings mixed emotions, but he stressed the time has come to build trust and confidence. Keith Asopardi described the Spanish Premier's visit to the Spanish side of the border as significant and said the treaty offered an opportunity for a new relationship with Spain. However, speaking to Cristina Cortés, he said he did still have concerns about the precise wording of the Concordats.
I think there's a level of mixed emotions, and understandable mixed emotions, because at one level, of course, this is a very historic moment, comparable with the closure of the frontier, of other significant, the opening of the frontier in 82 and 85. So it is very significant in those terms. But of course, it's mixed with understandable concerns that people have about security, about business, about people's rights, about seeing Spanish police officers at the airports, Then you've got the concerns that we expressed yesterday about the Concordat actually falling short of our expectations, and that has a real effect, could have a real effect on the decision-making of the Gibraltar government and the consent of the people of Gibraltar. So it's a day that you put it all together, and of course, understandably, it's history in the making, but also mixed emotions. You saw the scenes last night, some positive, some less positive. I mean, we all saw them, and so I think those things will hopefully die down. And we need to make this treaty now work for the people of Gibraltar.
And of course, you've mentioned the Concordat, where your strongest criticism was reserved for that. You've said it falls short as it allows for exceptional circumstances where the UK could diverge from the Gibraltar view. Was a caveat like this not expected to some extent?
Well, not really. I mean, look, we can all dance around the language, but certainly in a previous version of the Concordat that I saw, That language was not there. That language was in the most recent version of the Concordat that I saw only about a week ago. I expressed my very serious misgivings to the Chief Minister on it, and I said yesterday that the Stephen Doughty letter goes some way to provide those assurances. Of course, it's not in the body of the Concordat. I'd like to see it there. I'd like to see better language in the Concordat giving clearer commitments to the government of Gibraltar, to the people of Gibraltar, because fundamentally I believe that every issue under the treaty affects the people of Gibraltar, and every issue, therefore, and every decision must carry the consent of the government of the day of the people of Gibraltar.
And just on a sort of personal and social level, we've seen momentous scenes here today. What does it signify to have? I mean, the Spanish Premier has come to the border. We've seen the gates come down. I mean, quite a momentous day just on a personal level, I imagine.
Yes, I mean, I think it is significant. Look, as a referendum baby, you know, where I lived the frontier closure, when I went to university, the frontier had just opened for vehicular traffic in 85, you know, so certainly this is historic. It is historic that it's not the first time that a Spanish minister comes to Gibraltar, but it's certainly because we've seen foreign ministers.
That might be the crane that took down the gates that's just gone past us.
It might be very noisy as well. We've seen foreign ministers before. We've not seen a Spanish prime minister. I think his words today are very good. I think that as the dust settles, I think what the best that we can hope for is to make sure that any aspects of friction die down and that we build trust and confidence, because it is only building trust and confidence over a period of time that we will believe that we have turned the page and have a new relationship. This is an opportunity for a new relationship. Today is not the new relationship. We will judge whether we have had and achieved a new relationship with the passage of time.
And what will the GSD be seeking in the days to come?
Well, look, in the days to come, what we will be doing is doing our work in the opposition. So we will be raising issues of concern. If issues of concern arise as a result of the treaty, we will be doing our work. We're going back to the budget tomorrow in Parliament, and we still have a very active session of Parliament to go right through to the summer recess at the end of July. And we will carry on our work. We will monitor how the treaty works, and in future, if we have the privilege of being elected to be the government of Gibraltar at the next election, we will make sure this treaty works for the people.
The La Línea mayor welcomed Pedro Sanchez's address, describing it as a speech about people rather than politics. Juan Franco praised the Spanish Premier's call to leave the past behind, heal old wounds and look to the future, saying today's agreement was made possible by compromise from Spain, Gibraltar and the UK. With the agreement now being provisionally implemented, our reporter Kevin Dries asked Juan Franco what practical changes lie ahead for La Línea and how the town will coordinate with Gibraltar in the months to come.
Ese es uno de los temas que tenemos que tratar, porque sin ir más lejos, donde estamos, sin movernos. Esta carretera que está aquí es carretera nacional hasta la salida. ¿Qué significa esto? Que este espacio que está aquí, en principio, perdón que de la espalda, pero para explicarlo mejor, se queda como está, como dependencia policial, y el espacio que está allí detrás, que está tapado por estos carteles, ¿vale?, es el espacio de aduana, de forma que los camiones seguirán entrando para tener después el control aduanero por parte de Gibraltar detrás del aeropuerto. Y todo este espacio que está aquí, es decir, donde está el edificio que desde aquí no se ve, que es por donde se entraba hasta ahora con los DNI y tal, y estas instalaciones, que era donde estaba la Guardia Civil, y el de atrás, eso se supone que desaparece. Estamos hablando de una superficie de en torno a 12.000 metros cuadrados, y el ayuntamiento tiene planes, ¿no? Y le gustaría poder disponer de estos suelos y también aprovecharlos para efectuar una reordenación de tráfico que permita poder acceder en mejores condiciones y que gente que salga pues lo haga de una forma más cómoda, más fácil. Habrá que coordinar con el gobierno de Gibraltar a dónde queremos reconfigurar el tráfico peatonal para que la gente no esté conviviendo con los coches. O sea, queda mucho trabajo por delante, pero lo que está clarísimo es que nos va a tocar, después de disfrutar de este momento, de sentarnos otra vez con el gobierno de España y con la Junta de Andalucía para tratar todos estos temas que son los que vienen a consecuencia del día después.
¿Cuánto tan pronto que pueden ocurrir esas reuniones? Ahora también empieza el parón estival.
No, yo te cuento, yo las reuniones las pedía mañana, pero te cuento, mañana tengo la Virgen del Carmen, pasado tengo el Viernes de Coronación, sábado de Cabalgata, domingo Rociero, empieza la feria, termina la feria, hay que desmontarla, tengo cosas en agenda y es que en agosto Gibraltar no sé, pero en España es que prácticamente se para todo, ¿no? Así que bueno, empezaremos a mandar las cartas mediados de agosto y tal para que podamos ya empezar con las primeras reuniones serias en septiembre.
Hemos visto imágenes muy poderosas, hemos visto al presidente del gobierno español abrazarse con Fabián Picardo, cercanía entre los distintos ministros, el gabinete de Fabián, hemos visto al deputy Joseph García aquí en el lado español, con Pedro Sánchez también. Imágenes muy poderosas. ¿Se quedarán en esa postal o tiene fe de que van a ir más allá?
Vamos a ver, yo soy muchas veces pesimista para algunas cosas, optimista para otras. Yo, por ejemplo, le dije al ministro que el acuerdo no lo iba a mover ni él ni yo. Y mira dónde estamos. Gracias a Dios me equivoqué completamente. Entonces, bueno, yo estoy seguro que el de arriba se va a acordar de este rinconcito. Tuvimos otro día al obispo allí también pidiendo por eso. Y lo que espero es que nos ilumine a todos para que entre todos consigamos lo mejor para los dos pueblos.
You're watching GBC News. Coming up after the break, even more from Implementation Day as we hear from the Police Commissioner on security concerns and some minor drama unfolding on the roads as Spanish taxis are spotted in Gibraltar, although they were met with swift resistance. Back in just a few minutes. Stay with us. Welcome back. The government has designated parts of the frontier infrastructure as scheduled monuments under the Heritage and Antiquities Act. This includes the formal protection of 3 historic limestone gate pillars in the frontier area. The government says these are surviving elements of Gibraltar's historic boundary and frontier landscape during a period of major historical transition for Gibraltar and the surrounding region. The decision was taken by Cabinet and it was supported by the Heritage and Antiquities Advisory Council. Now, the Commissioner of Police says there were no arrests or incidents of disorder overnight. Reflecting on the removal of the controls at the frontier, Owain Richards said a physical border does not define security. Cristina Cortés put it to him that, in the past, some of the behaviour that was seen at the border last night may have been considered provocation.
Fear of crime, provocation, using threatening language, words or behaviour can amount to an arrest. The Spanish flag is not a prescribed flag. It's not against the law purely to hold that flag. In certain circumstances, of course, it can associate with that behaviour. And the Royal Gibraltar Police are very tuned into that, respect the community feelings in respect of this issue, and we're ready to respond.
Ready to respond if there are instances of provocation coming in, taking on the basis of last night?
Well, of course. Look, this week is not only extremely challenging policing operation at the border, we are also delivering additional police resources for the Football World Cup. I want people to go out and enjoy the match, to drink responsibly. Our officers will be ready to respond. There's a number of threats and risks that we've been planning for over the recent months with our local, international, UK partners. We have additional CCTV cameras. I was at the control room at the airport this morning to see that in operation. They are patched through directly to New Mall House that we can respond to any incident. We have cutting-edge facial recognition technology. We have automatic number plate technology. And of course, we have our officers who are capable, professional, who are here in new vehicles, here in foot, to engage with the public, to be vigilant, and also to keep them safe.
And take us through a scenario where this might come into effect. For example, somebody flagged by authorities in another country tries to come through the border.
Well, look, the treaty makes a legal provision, for example, for a hot pursuit. That is a legal provision. The law enforcement authorities have a common purpose, and that is to disrupt and apprehend criminals. So in the event of that happening, or of a serious crime happening across the border in La Linea and that pursuit, we are ready to respond, we're ready to intervene. And let's be clear, the Royal Gibraltar Police are the principal law enforcement agency in Gibraltar. We are taking the lead, we are responsible, and our Spanish colleagues cannot take executive action in Gibraltar, save for acting in self-defence.
And again, the facility here, more temporary infrastructure for now. Can you tell us about what will be here permanently in future?
There are plans to build a joint operating base, which is a tri-service headquarters for the frontier involving the Royal Gibraltar Police, the Borders and Coast Guard Agency and His Majesty's Customs. You can see behind me here the temporary cabins for the RGP and the BCA with customs situated at the Eastgate location. That will provide another brilliant facility for our officers to work from, to respond to the public with a front counter as well for the public to attend, to ask any questions, to have any concerns allayed. You can see behind me as well the new SUVs that we have deployed, that were deployed last night, that are being used to support our policing operation. From a public point of view, go about your daily lives, be vigilant, take your own precautions, and be assured that the RGP is here to protect you.
And a Spanish taxi driver has been reported by the RGP for operating on the rock without a licence. This afternoon, 2 local taxi drivers hemmed the Spanish taxi in and called the police. They told GBC it was the second incident today and expressed concern that people would be able to use taxi services from across the border following implementation. Reports of a protest around Gibraltar have been circulating on social media. This, however, has not been confirmed by the Taxi Association. And that brings Implementation Day to a close, although GBC's coverage of Treaty Week continues in the coming days. There's more available online on gbc.gi and across our social media platforms. Now, England are just kicking off against Argentina. The prize, quite poetically, a spot in the World Cup final against none other than Spain. It could get emotional. We leave you with some images from Casemates where football fans are preparing to watch the game on the big screen. From the news team, from myself, it's been a very long day. Good night.